Hello, welcome back to Search Sean, and this is another Chat with Sean episode. And yeah, got another awesome guest. As usual, do some admin intros, and then we'll get on to the real good stuff, the topics and stuff. So yeah, so much going on in the channel at the moment. It's really hard to keep up, but I had Jono Alderson on recently. I've had Dan Taylor and Smarty, real superstar lineup. Loads more that I could name, but there are a few, so definitely go and check them out. I'll put links in the description for you to go back and check out those videos. And also, I keep saying this, but it's nearly done now, but I'm doing a deep dive into Wikipedia. It's coming along nice, trying to throw in some juicy bits here and there. So yeah, wait for it. And it should be quite interesting, I think, for those who work in search. And even if you don't, I think it's actually quite eye-opening in many ways. But I'll get on to my amazing guest today, another superstar to add to the lineup. And yeah, you probably know her already, but for those who don't, it's Crystal Carter, and is the new head of AI search and SEO communications at Wix, and an award-winning conference speaker. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. Really, really delighted to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. It's really nice to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot to go through. Obviously, we go through more general topics, and then we'll lead on to some more specific ones. And obviously, we want to hear more about your kind of role and stuff, which we're going to actually straight away. But so obviously, you got this new role, and we're starting to see more of these sort of roles crop up in the industry, these sort of AI focused roles. AI search and SEO communications, or what does that involve in your day-to-day role? And yeah, what are you going to be looking at?
Yeah, so at Wix, we have a whole suite of tools and analytics and ways that you can optimize your website for SEO, but also for AI search. And we are also doing our own AI search optimization across the team. And because we are so interested in this and because we're so invested in this, we wanted to just double down on making sure that it's very clear that we see this as, the way that the industry is sort of evolving. I don't think that SEO is disappearing at all. I think some of you were like, it's all or nothing. I don't think that. I think that it is, but it is evolving though, I think. And that's one of the reasons why we also launched the AI Search Lab. And when we were putting that together, people were saying, well, how come this doesn't just fall into SEO? Why don't we just stick this in SEO? And I'm like, they're completely different channels. Like the way that people use AI search is very different from the way that people use search, classic search. For instance, I think about the way that I use Perplexity a lot, for instance, and I have very long chats. I'm a big fan of that context window. And I have very, very long chats about, I was trying to up my protein, right? Which anybody who has tried to do that, it takes a while. So I have a whole chat that's just about protein, about like how much protein in a banana and like how much protein if we calculate this and that and how many calories and blah, blah, blah. And all of those sorts of things. And that's different from the way that we use search, because I can scroll back into that chat and see the recommendations that they gave me, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. They'll remember the conversations that I had. That's different from the way that you use search, where if I was to Google on classic Google, even with an AI overview, how much protein in a banana, for instance, then it would give me the answer, but it wouldn't necessarily remember that I'd done, it wouldn't remember the details about that. There'd be some ad things, and I'd certainly get lots of advertisements for protein powders, I'm sure, across the Google network, but it's a different search experience. And I think that as the tools emerge, so, we're starting to see, we have our own AI search tool that lets you track visibility in AI search from like ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity. And there's other tools. So I've got a whole article about 13 different tools. And I need to add some more because I keep getting people DMing me like, hey, what about our tool? And so there's lots of different tools as well. And I think that as we get more visibility as marketers, it's going to become more distinct. I think first out of the gate, people are saying, oh, it's the same. I'm like, you're not looking at what I'm looking at. You have more information. You can see that you can make impact with specific AI search optimizations, and they don't have any impact on what happens on Google. They're different optimizations. So I think that it's important to double down on that and to show the investment that we're doing. So I'll be supporting, the tool rollout. So, with some of the products that we're creating, I'm giving, input on that with some of our AI search optimizations that we're doing for our enterprise business. We get millions and millions of views a month on Wix.com. I'm inputting on that. I'm also seeking and sharing some of the data that we've got and some of the research that we've done around that and the research that I've done across the community, as well as supporting our SEO, as our suite of SEO tools, which are, fantastic. And we've got, new tools coming out all the time for both SEO and accessibility. So yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. I mean, before we went on, live, I did tell you that the searchwithsean.com website is on Wix. It is a Wix. Yeah. So there's no sponsorship here, really. But yeah, I am seeing more in the back end analytics side, AI sort of reporting coming through, and then also the AI chatbot functionality, which I haven't really worked on as much as I wanted to, but it's a cool feature, for smaller websites that haven't got, the people power to kind of do that customer service.
Yeah, I think that's been a real game changer for us. We find that the more AI we give, as a SaaS company, the more AI that we give our users in order to manage their websites and manage their businesses, because Wix is websites, businesses, email, all sorts of, I'm sure you're familiar with, that we find that people get more out of the products. And that's the idea. So I think that, when you go into Wix, if you want to find something, if you want to do something, there's so many new features where the dev team are constantly building and innovating. And for instance, we have, it's called Astro officially. Sometimes if you look it up, it's called the Wix AI assistant as well. But you can say, I want to make an event. I'm going to have an event, a meetup that's happening in London on Tuesday or something. And you put that into the AI chatbot and it will build you an event page and we'll fill in the address and we'll fill in all of those sorts of things. And because we have the SEO to back it up, the event page that they build for you will also have schema markup built into the page. And we'll also have, sort of other optimizations on the page that are built in. And essentially, we find that, people are really interested in using AI moving forward and making sure that they can use it efficiently. And so we try to provide tools to allow you to do that. I mean, really, at the moment, we're, AI inside and out. Avishai, the CEO, has been a big advocate of AI since 2016. So the Wix ADI, it was called Artificial Design Intelligence, was first dropped in 2016. And that was an AI web builder. And we've continued to build since then. And we've had, lots of Google AI built into the website builder for ages. So for instance, when I first joined in 2022, I was really interested in visual search. And when I joined Wix, I was delighted to find that we had Vision AI, which is the machine learning tooling behind Google Lens, Circle to Search, all of that, built into our image filtering. So if you go through your images and you type in daffodil, if you have a photo of a daffodil, even if it's called daffodil, it will find it within that and it tags it as well. So, we have things like that built in. And we've got some great tools around it. So I think that it's important for people to know that, we've got AI, we use AI internally. We all have the full Google workspace for AI. So I use Gemini daily. We have our own AI tools that we built internally as well. We have AI hackathon, all of that. So we're using it a lot. We're providing it for our users. We're also using it to optimize as well. So it's really inside and out. We're very AI forward at Wix.
Yeah, sounds sweet. It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you've got this changed role, or whatever, to focus a little bit more on AI. Obviously, I do the news on this channel, the SEO news and AI news. And one of the stories I've read recently is around a lot of people are stressed about AI coming into their role. They think it feels like another job on top of their current job. They're trying to get their head around SEO and now they feel like it's a whole different form of SEO and that kind of thing because of AI. So do you feel like there will be more of these sort of more focused AI roles going to be created a lot more down the line? Because obviously people worry about AI taking their job, but if it's going to create new jobs, then it kind of takes a little bit of pressure off.
Yeah, I think that that's important to remember. Like when we were kids, Sean, the job of a social media manager didn't exist. Like when I was 5 years old, the job of an SEO, an SEO consultant didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. I remember when Google was new. Like I remember Netscape. Like I remember AOL. Like all of these different things. So we're in a new era where there will be new roles created. And I think this is important to think about when we've got juniors coming into, marketing agencies and things like that. People are saying, oh, juniors aren't going to be doing some of the grunt work, which I'm sure that you've done and that I definitely did of, writing reports, writing meta descriptions by hand, like, like going through all of those different things. And I think that, that journey of doing that grunt work makes you better as a, a professional practitioner later on, because you remember all of those steps and you learn every time you do something. So I think that it's important to remember that like juniors will have new skills to offer and that we should be open to new ideas and new roles. And I've also seen the idea of a positionless marketer floating around my LinkedIn. I don't know if people have seen that. And I think it's part of the reason why there's a response to that is because, we do so much and we pivot so frequently that it can sometimes be difficult to pivot to point down like, I do this one thing or I do this other thing. And I think that with AI, what I find is that I tend to use AI whenever I have that moment, right? When somebody says like, "Oh, can you do this thing?" and like, "Can I have it tomorrow?" And I'm like, I don't have time to do that, and that's going to take me 3 years, and blah 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 blah. And then I think that's a job for AI. Let me like, I'll take that, and like it, it's something that. And I think that once you start doing that really regularly, you will find that actually like it can cut down on a lot of things for you. One of my favorite application for AI, one of the things I was using absolutely straight out the gate was AI to write spreadsheet formulas for me, because like the time that I spend not arguing with spreadsheets is absolutely time I will reclaim back for my life. And they very often come up with, formulas that I've not seen before and that, are much, much more streamlined than what I've got. We have an AI code assistant built into Wix, and we also have, lots of assistants on our coding. So there's Velo, which is a JavaScript framework, and my JavaScript is okay, right? It's like, it's all right. I can kind of get there if I have to. But basically, I remember there was something and I had to connect like a third-party API because this is what the project we were working on required this. I had to create, it was a custom third-party API, and they wanted to sort and filter a bunch of images and information and this, that, and the other. And I was able to get like 90% of the way there between like me and, the Velo AI assistant and the Velo error messages. So I'd say to the AI, I'd have the AI generate the information. Then I'd say then I'd type it in, I'd get error messages, and then I'd take it back to the AI and say, I had this error message. And Wix has live log files. So as soon as you deploy it, you can see the log files. And so I take those and I put those into the AI. And then between going back and forth with that, I was able to get, I don't know, like pretty much 90% there. And then I had a developer help me with the last hour. And so I think that it's important for us to remember that, it can help you do new things. Wix recently acquired Base 44, which is a vibe coding platform. And essentially that allows you to go from like thinking an idea to having an idea, like to literally having it in your. I tested this on a project that I was interested in, and I was able to move it forward, really, really quickly. I've got another one that I want to test soon as well. And I think that if you go from thinking about like more sort of like how come to what if, like what if I did this? What if I could code? If I could code, I would be able to do this. So try it. Try it, get involved. And I think that it's worth trying some of the different tools. So Gemini I use a lot. Gemini is really funny because Gemini will not tell you stuff about ChatGPT or other questions, and it's like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, Copilot I use a lot. Copilot I have, which is surprising, like not many people use Copilot, but I like their app because it's just very simple and very straightforward. And I literally just go like, how many grapes can you fit in a Ziploc bag or something? And it will just give me an answer. And I like Copilot. They've got a little Chrome extension as well that I use as well. And I think that, they've all got different stuff. I really like Perplexity because Perplexity always gives you a link. Not all of the platforms always give you a link, but Perplexity will always give you a link on whatever you ask them for. And I really like that. ChatGPT, it can be good for if you're building stuff, if you're writing a big document, if you're doing this and that. And also the agentic stuff is really useful. So we have lots of agents across Wix. We've got Clio, we have Astro, and they are tasked with helping you achieve a specific goal. And I found that the agentic, there's Google Gemini has gems, for instance, and that has an agentic thing. And Perplexity has Perplexity spaces, and it also has an agentic element. So if you say, I want you to be my fitness coach, and I want you to help me lose 5 pounds before my wedding or something, like, and that's the task that you set it will not deviate from that. So if you say, today I got 10,000 steps, what should I do tomorrow? It'll be like, right, well, today you got 10,000 steps. Tomorrow you need to do like 5 reps, 7 squats and this, that, and the other so that you'll meet your goal. And it's really important to like try all of the different elements, because I think that the more that you try these things is the more that you will understand how other users are using them. On the AI Search Lab, I recently shared some data comparing AI search to Google. And I had a few people come back to me, and I might have to write something up about this, saying, I don't think AI searches are 1-for-1 with Google searches because you're not always looking for facts. And the thing that I think about this is first of all, we're tracking it. So we'll find out. Like, we'll find out. I'm looking at it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But are we going to start to see a drop in searches and an increase in AI use? That's the thing that I'm interested in over time, because Gartner about a year ago was like, yeah, organic search is going to drop by 25% in 2026. And so far, we haven't seen that, right? We have seen AI search increase in users and visits. We have seen that, but we haven't seen a big drop in organic search so far. But I've been tracking that. And the reason why I've been tracking that is because I regularly will give up on organic search and go to AI, or just go straight to AI. And you're nodding along, Sean, like, because sometimes it's easier. And especially, and for some topics, I find that, the search results are so complex. I was playing Magic the Gathering with my son, and I don't know how to play Magic the Gathering. I had one tutorial like one time from George Wynn, my former colleague, and then I tried to play with my son because George very kindly gave us a deck, and I was confused. And when I tried to Google it, I kept getting all these websites that were like pillar posts of like 10,000 words of about summoning sickness and this, that, and the other. And I just wanted to know if I could play. And so I just asked the AI, like, I have this, we're in this scenario, I have this card and I did this. Can I take another turn? And it would say like, yes or no. And that's all I need to do. That's all I need. So sometimes the AI is much easier. And also, if you have a very specific search, I find that it's way easier to search on AI, because I don't even spell check. Honestly, the stuff I send to Gemini is just like complete, like, the typos abound. So many.
Yeah, no, valid. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you do a spelling error on Google, they're still very they pick up on it, and it doesn't work properly. So yeah, I'm the same. I mean, you kind of just put in whatever you live. I think it's more of a conversation, like people say. You can like make mistakes, you can do grammar mistakes. It still picks up on it. Like,
right.
It's going to be interesting. Like with the job thing, I think it can go many ways. Obviously, it depends on how many risks that companies are going to take to invest into the AI side of it, or if they're going to stick more traditional. And I do think, because we are seeing the drop off in like lower level jobs being created, but if companies invest in AI and see that as a future, then there might be jobs that come along. But we go on to, because you brought up some good points in terms of like the market overall, the market share, like you did that data that you looked at Google versus AI. What other interesting findings did you see there?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed, because I actually ran it in June as well. And one of the things I find is that like they tend to jump when there's a big release, right? When there's a big like ChatGPT 5, or they've just announced, they had Google I/O. And so then you see a big jump in Gemini, for instance. Perplexity announced Comet in July. So we'll expect to see a spike there. So that I thought was interesting. And it also tracks with why DeepSeek just continues to like slowly dribble away. So DeepSeek made a big splash at the beginning of the year. There had about 500 million users in January, February, and was actually like much bigger than Gemini for those 2 months. But it's essentially, it was a project that they built, and then there's no marketing behind it. Like, it just was a big project that they built. Everybody really quickly adopted all of their USPs across all of the other platforms. And so they probably got a few core users, or not a few core users. They've still got, hundreds of millions of users, but it's not as many, we're seeing a decline. So it's on a downward slope rather than an upward trajectory, which almost all of them are. All of the other ones are. So what we see is that. So that seems to be a trend. Like, that seems to be a common thing, is that basically AI adoption is driven by AI innovation. And I think that this is really, it might seem really basic, but I think it's really important to think about that, because there's a promise of AI, right? So everybody's like, AI is going to make everything simpler. We're all going to, nobody's going to have to read any emails or write any emails. We can all go on vacation. It'll be totally fine. And I think that, what we're still seeing is that there's still an adoption curve. We're still seeing, I think about, it was like 20% of Americans, for instance, are using AI now, and it is increasing. But if you look at it over time in terms of users, so I had the users for Google are fairly stable, trending ever so slightly down, like margin of error down, like 1% down. Like, so, it could be like, there could be something in there. So trending ever so slightly down, but users for AI, it goes up, then it sort of plateaus, then it goes up with a big release. And so I think that as long as we see innovation, we will see adoption. But I still think we've yet to have that iPod moment, right? So I think people are saying, like, there's some people who are saying, oh, AI is not a big deal. I've still heard people say this about AI search. Like, why are you worrying about AI search? You should be worrying more about DuckDuckGo. You got more traffic from DuckDuckGo. I've heard someone say. And I think that, early adopters will be rewarded. I think this is like any platform. If you look at people who got on Instagram straight away, like they still have huge numbers of followers. If you look at people who got on TikTok straight away, they still have huge numbers of followers. And when you join later on, it's harder to get that kind of trajectory. So I think it's early adoption, I think, is key in this era because of that. And also because you'll be building in, internal skills for optimizing for these tools, for understanding these tools, because they're iterating every time. They're not, it's not every time they make an update like ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 5, they're iterations of the one before. They're not complete revolutions on that. So that I think is interesting. ChatGPT has continued to be the sort of big dominant force, but Google's Gemini is moving steadily at a pace. The other thing that Google seems to have, which none of the other platforms have in their favor, is that Google Gemini has hardware. ChatGPT has no hardware, for instance. So the Pixel 10, which is soon to be released, has, Google built right into it. The Pixel Watch also has Google Gemini built right into it. And so it'll be interesting to see how that affects user adoption and the trackability of user adoption. So, for instance, in July, what we saw was that the visits to Gemini went up, but the users actually went down, which is weird. And I think that part of that has to do with the Pixel Watch users, getting involved with, checking it out and that sort of thing, because people always do that when they get a new feature on a thing. So I think that might be the case. So we'll be interesting to see if we see the same pattern when the Pixel 10 drops as well. So I think that was interesting. And yeah, I think I plan to update that every month. So we should get some information on the August data as soon as we get the data from SimilarWeb. And thank you to them for access to that data. And yeah, I think it's an interesting space to watch. It's something that, I've presented on this topic, in the US, in the UK, in Germany. And every time I pull up the slide about the market share for ChatGPT, for instance, everybody gets their phone out. So I'm just like, well, let's just make it a thing so everybody has it. And I think it's really useful because the other thing is that this is we're such early days in terms of, AI search optimization as a profession or as a service that one might offer, that, we want to be of service to agencies and consultants and folks who are working to serve clients, because we have so many partners who are doing this. And we have so many people within our network, within the Wix, Wix Nation, who are interested in this. So we want to support them in that effort. And yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, I think it's that one thing that does kind of annoy me a bit is when people say so matter of fact about certain things, on LinkedIn, it's like, this is that, and this is going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen, especially around AI. Like, no one knew that this kind of trend was going to happen so quickly after it did when when Bing did what they did. And, and the thing is, everyone's saying that AI bubble's bursting and it's about to burst. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is all hyped up by Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg and stuff. But if you look at the amount of money that is being invested into AI, into the data centers, into government usage, into all the companies investing hundreds of millions and billions into AI, then it's obviously going to continue for quite a while. And like you say, I think it's very interesting. Like, AI is going to be built into every single thing we do in future. Like, every single electrical piece of equipment we have is it already has, there's fridges with AI, there's coffee makers with AI built into it, and then, yeah, it's going to be like just part of our lives. So yeah, the hardware side of it is going to be very interesting. You made a very good point around, we're talking about market share. I'd like to get your view on this as well, but everyone's thinking like it's going to be the large language models are going to keep taking up Google's market share, but recent data has shown that actually people seem to be using both a lot. That seems to be the trend, that they will go on ChatGPT or whatever and then go to Google again to kind of clarify whatever the ChatGPT or whoever has said. But Itera Blau was just saying that actually if Google continue on this trend with AI mode where everything that you want to do can be done via Google, like booking flights or booking an event or all these sort of things they're rolling out, then it could be the case that Google do maintain their market share. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on everything.
Yeah. So the thing is that, Google is competing with itself with Gemini as well. Like they're hedging their bets. And they built Gemini and Gemini is the backbone of all of those things. So Gemini is the backbone of AI mode. It's the backbone of AI overviews. It is backbone of their Google Workspace optimizations. And I think that is interesting because it kind of means that if you're optimizing for Gemini, you're optimizing for, the whole of the Google ecosystem, which I think is fascinating. And I'm not sure the people are thinking about that yet. I also think that in terms of market share, one of the things that I think is probably going to work really, really well in Google's favor, and I've seen this before as well in other capacities, is like Google Maps. The thing about Google Maps is that Google have already invested like way, way more than anyone else on Earth in things like Google Earth, for instance. All those little cars with the cameras that drive around and take pictures of everybody's house and like all of that sort of stuff. Google Business Profile that's got all of the, everybody's put in all their details and all of that. No one else has that ecosystem. And if they wanted to build that ecosystem, it would be very, very difficult. I'm a Bing user because Bing has points. So if you search, you get points. And I've gotten like Amazon vouchers and stuff off of my Bing points. So I have like one of my web profiles is set to Bing and I check in on their app so I can get points. Anyways, so I use Bing a lot. And for Bing's search, like for the regular sort of blue link searching, it's just as good as Google, like nine times out of 10. Like I can get almost everything done on Bing, like no problems whatsoever. Where it's sometimes tricky though, for instance, is Google Maps. Like, so Bing Places is not as good as Google Maps. They do great, but they're not as good as Google Maps. And even if you want to sign up for Bing Places, you can port over your Google Business Profile to Bing Maps, for instance. So they also rely on data from a Google Business Profile. Now, if Bing, who've invested lots in their search and, have done some incredibly innovative things on their search profiles, and in fact, some of the AI overview things, they were already doing something that was basically that for ages over on Bing. And we talk about ads and monetization in AI search. They've already done that on Copilot as well. So you can see what that looks like as well. But the maps element is something that Perplexity have tried to do. But again, they don't have the same infrastructure behind them. So I think that people trying to catch up on that is going to be really tricky. And I think also people will go to Google as a sort of like double, as a second opinion. So I do this regularly as well. So for instance, I was recently on vacation. I had a lovely time. And while I was there, I would, I'd use AI. Again, I use Perplexity a lot and I'd ask it, where's a good place to get, what are things to do in this place that I'm in? Where can I find live music in this place? And they would give me recommendations. And, people say, oh, they hallucinate, they make things up. I mean, to be fair, on Google search, sometimes just on the regular links to websites, sometimes you get out of date information just because like it was the last thing that showed up. And that's the best search result they can give you because there's no other search results. Like that happens too. So I will double check some of that information with a Google search or going directly to the website just to validate that information. So if you're looking for something specific, but what we do see is that looking at the data for Google and ChatGPT, for instance, you see that there was audience overlap in terms of people so SimilarWeb has data on people who use the same app on the same day or go to visit the same website on the same day. And back in you see an increase in the number of people who are using Google and ChatGPT on the same day. Then it goes up over time. So currently, I think the last time I checked, it was like 16 something % of people use Google and ChatGPT on the same day. But but historically it was much, much lower. So I think that maybe we'll start to see a shift. And I think that we might start to see a shift in the way that people search. So if people are searching in different ways, then they might use Google in different ways. So I think time will tell with regards to that overlap.
Yeah, I think we're always like, I guess it's human nature. Like you always just want like a black or white answer. Like it's got to be one thing or the other thing. In fact, it can be both things. And it seems to be the case, as you say, it seems to be the case that people are using both in their journey and they're actually doing multiple touch points. Obviously now you're looking at AI with a lot more focus, and it's a contentious term, but in terms of GEO, have you seen any sort of like practical optimization tips in terms of like, in terms of optimizing your content to get it more seen in the AI results or like cited more in the AI results? Have you seen any early kind of indicators on how that can be done?
So yeah, I have an article on the AI Search Lab on optimizations for different models and for different ways to do this. And one of the things that I talked about in it was it's called reinforcement by human feedback, also known as clicking the thumbs up or thumbs down feedback button. So within machine learning training, they have this term, which is reinforcement by human feedback. And it's something that you can do in your chats. So people say, oh, or why are you saying please or thank you to the AI chatbots? Like, because you get better results, actually. You get better results if you give it good reinforcement. And so, if you're polite, manners cost nothing. Remember that your AI chatbot likes a little encouragement. So that will give you better responses. Equally, you can also give feedback if it gives you incorrect responses from a marketing perspective. So I did this months ago, or about a year ago. And in my deck, I show a very good example. There's a website called Site of Sites, and it's a project where, you showcase different websites, kind of like a Behance kind of thing. And when I first did it, I went on all the different chatbots and I said, what is Site of Sites? And it was like, oh, it's a term from architecture. Oh, it's this other thing. Oh, it's a general term. I had no idea about this website. And the website was new in spring of 2024. And then a few months later, we started doing, we built out the website. We fixed a few indexing problems. And I went back to all of these things. And I was like, what is Site of Sites? And there was a couple of them where we're still like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then Gemini was like, oh, Site of Sites is a website that curates web design examples and stuff. And I was like, bingo, fantastic. So then because I'm an SEO, I asked for a link. And I said, what is the URL for Site of Sites? And it said, oh, we're sorry, it's part of Behance. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not part of Behance. So in the feedback, they've got a thumbs up and thumbs down. On it, I clicked thumbs down and I said, no, it's not part of Behance. It's at this URL here. Now, that's super useful because that is a factual thing that they can check. They can go to that website. They can find out that it's Site of Sites and that it confirms the information that it gave them. It's not like I said, Site of Sites is the best thing that ever happened to humanity. But you know what I mean? That's subjective.
Yeah.
But they can verify that whether that's true or not. And then they can update their learning. And so it did. So then a month later, I went back and I asked it and it said, where's Site of Sites? And it said Site of Sites at siteofsites.co. And that's correct. And I was wondering, does this still work? Right. And I went in Perplexity the other day and there was something that was a new feature that we had just released. And I asked it, and it was literally literally just released. And I said to it, does Wix have this feature? And it was like, oh, we're not sure if it has this feature. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And so I went back and I said, and the page, I think the support page hadn't even been indexed yet. But we had already, I think we'd shared it in the community page. And I went back and I said, incorrect. We do have this feature. It is at this page. It has been shared on this community page. And here is the article that talks about it here as well. And then I went back, and the next time I went back for this, and I checked it on an incognito chat as well. I was able to see this page as well. So that's something that can work, and that's something that's worth thinking about. Additionally, it's worth thinking about the actual literal wording that you put on each page. So mentions matter as well. On the AI Search Lab, I have an article about SEO KPIs versus LLM and AI search KPIs. And I think it's important to remember that mentions are very important for AI search. And links are great. Citations are fantastic, but mentions are also really important in a way that they're not for SEO. So mentions on SEO are like, all right, like it's okay, but like I want a link, right? You're like, that's cool. Thanks for the mention, but let me get a link. That's what you want in SEO. But for AI, the mention is really important because the mention very often may or may not include a link to your website. It might include a link to Wikipedia. It might include a link to a Reddit page. It might include a link to a YouTube thing about you. But if you're mentioned, that's essentially, it falls into the same category as like a word of mouth recommendation because people use AI agentically. Like there's AI tools that I use literally every day. And so you build up a sort of relationship rapport. Like when they really announced ChatGPT 5, people were like, the personality has changed. What's going on? People have a rapport with these AI tools. So it means that when you get recommended information, it carries a certain weight to it because you trust it for certain information. You might not trust it for everything, but you trust it for certain information, just like you would with your best friend. I have friends that are like good at some things and they're not good at other things. And so I will trust them on certain information, like maybe on a movie recommendation, but maybe not like, I don't know, on like, what I should do with my plumbing. Like that's fine. And I think that's important. And this makes sense when you think about like the fact that, Sierra Interactive reported that AI search recommendations or AI search conversion rate is much, much higher than Google conversion rates. And I actually looked it up and it's actually higher than, than recommendations on, than referral schemes as well, for instance. So it's something important to think about. So I think mentions are important and the way that you're mentioned is important. So previously people would like email and say, oh, hi, dear sir, madam, could you change this reference to a link? And I think now people may think about like, hey, dear sir, madam, could you change the wording that you have for this particular mention of me to match, the way that you want to be perceived in AI? And I think that that's worth thinking about as well, because they're very sophisticated and very basic at the same time. So you have pattern recognition built into a lot of the sort of core models of some of these AI tools. So at the very base level, like when we're talking like ChatGPT, they're looking at, it's kind of a predictive, it's like very, 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 very sophisticated predictive text. And like they'll say Wix is a website builder. Like that's what they'll say. Wix is a website builder. And so, if you say like good website builders, like include Wix, like it would say like, that's what it would expect to hear within that list of things. So if you have phrases, you want to make sure that those phrases are working in a similar way. And this is something that SEOs have been working on for ages, but we need to think about like a little bit actually more literally, because sometimes, as we know, AI will literally will just say, they will say word for word exactly what's in segments anyway, what was printed on a website. So it's worth looking at that as well. But yeah, in my article, and I also have a deck that I presented at Brighton SEO last year, and then I presented various different iterations of around the world on the AI Search Lab. I've got a write up on that and it talks about GEO. And that term GEO is like, I know it's annoying. I know that people don't like it. I mean, it kind of, it's a little grating because it's like geometry. Like, what are we talking about? And I can see why it grates some folks, but to be honest, I think we spent a lot of time. I think that one of the reasons why people use it is because of the search volume. If you look at the Google search trends, like the searches for GEO have gone up loads. So if customers are using it, then I think, we use it for those reasons, because if we're SEOs and we can't make ourselves found online, then what are we doing?
Yeah, no, great points and really interesting. I think with that, that's another kind of example, actually, that kind of please, thank you thing, because actually one of the original videos I watched on YouTube, I found it was one of the original developers who worked with, large language models training. I don't know if it was with Google or with like OpenAI, I can't remember, but he was basically saying how in the very early days when he was working with them, he found that they actually do like it when you say please or thank you. And then you'll see now people on LinkedIn who are kind of just saying how silly you are if you're doing that and like calling people out. And you're just like, well, no one actually knows the real truth. Like, so, maybe a few people do, but probably not many. So like, you can't just say like, call people out and call people like silly for doing that.
They've done studies and you get better responses. I also find that like, I also throw tantrums at my AI sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. It's happened before where we've been trying to work on a thing, and then like I'm trying to get this code and I'm trying to get this working and stuff, and they're like, oh, we can't do that, and I just go,
Goodbye.
I'm sorry, you're very disappointed, and I'm like, I'm not very happy, and then actually respond, which is ridiculous. It's not my proudest moment, if I'm completely honest, but generally speaking, I try to give positive reinforcement. So if something works, I think that's also worth giving them information. So like, let's say I asked for a spreadsheet formula and stuff. I can never remember the spreadsheet, like the Google Sheets scraping things for like H1s and title tag. I can never remember the formatting for them. I just cannot. And so I'll ask for those like 17 times a day, and they'll go, oh, thanks, that worked. Like that's useful to tell them like that did work. This did not work, because in the context window, they'll know that like it will remember that like that did work. And I think also the memory part is really important as well. So ChatGPT announced shopping in the spring, and they said that that memory will be part of the shopping experience. And then Google I/O, they also talked about personalization, and personalization and memory are basically the same thing. So essentially, they'll have a full context window essentially on you, right? So I don't eat dairy. It doesn't agree with my stomach. And so if I was looking for a cake recipe, I would say I would like a dairy-free cake recipe. Now, if I have context, so if they have, a memory of our previous chats, then when I ask for a pie recipe, they'll also remember that I don't have dairy. So they won't give me a recipe with dairy included in it. And I think that's worth remembering, because that means that for marketers, we really, really, really need to know our customers, and we really need to have a good connection with our customers to make sure that we have the kind of, like end of the funnel specific information about what we do, our USPs, and how we solve problems, challenges for our clients and customers on our website. I'm a big proponent of like making sure that people don't have to go to Reddit to find out about your brand. Like, why do they have to go to Reddit to get that information? They shouldn't. And I think that it's important that we understand some of those kinds of conversations, that we account for some of those kinds of conversations, some of those deep long tail conversations in the content on our website.
Yeah, and it's a really great point about the feedback. I mean, it's not actually something I've considered that much in the past. So that's really interesting. And like you say, it's actually a really good learning curve, because you are asking questions about your brand, and it's not really can't find the information, or it doesn't really give back what you want. Then it's a great chance to build up that. If you haven't got the content there already, then you should make that clearer, because obviously it isn't clear enough. And also start doing, if it's something that's really important, start doing more PR videos and stuff about it, like you say, because mentions and that are going to be really vital. And like even videos like YouTube, all these YouTube videos are being used in the training data. So any mentions on videos and stuff like that is going to be just as like a link would be on Google or whatever going forward. So it's going to be, it's going to be interesting.
So for instance, if this was on YouTube and I said that Wix was the best website builder in the world, then it might get mentioned. ChatGPT. No, but also, for instance, like we have like Perplexity very often pulls up videos as a regular source. YouTube is a big source for ChatGPT as well. So if you look at the outgoing traffic from from ChatGPT, it includes YouTube. As part of it, Perplexity surfaces YouTube. If you look up like recipes and things like that, it will show up with a video tab that has information. If you have how-to questions, it will pull up a video tab that pulls that through. And I think it's also important to remember that Google is allowing people to search via the transcript. So they auto-transcribe, and the auto-transcription, helps you appear on search, helps you appear in some of these AI search tools, helps you appear on YouTube. Video is a great optimization for AI search and for, general client visibility.
Yeah, and they also asked me recently about transcribing it in all different languages. They're trialing out these different. They always ask me about new things. If I want to try it, I always kind of say, yeah, go for it. But it's like different languages and stuff, so that could be interesting.
Yeah, worldwide John.
Yeah. If there's like 3 things that SEO should be focused on now more than anything else, what would you kind of two or three things, what would you be focused on if you were just, if you work in SEO?
So I think that you should be tracking AI search. I don't think that necessarily everybody needs to go crazy and like stop doing SEO. SEO is dead. I'm not saying that at all, but you should be tracking it. So you can track it in GA4 with like not, you can see whether or not you're getting traffic and conversions in GA4. That's not difficult to do. There's some regex that you can do in my article on the Wix AI Search Lab. You can see there an example regex. There's other people who've shared example regexes and also, Google Looker Studio things as well. But you should be tracking it so that you can see how much that channel is changing and growing. Additionally, I would say that people should be looking at the bottom of the funnel, not just for AI search, but for, search overall. So I think that we've been doing a lot of top of funnel content, where you have somebody whose business is, I don't know, they like a flower shop or something. And, we as SEOs would be like, oh yeah, we should write we've got good search volume on roses. We should write a blog on the top poems about roses. And, like people have written that kind of content and been paid for it. And, clients are happy about it and they get search volume. But I think that kind of traffic is much more likely to be covered by AI than, something that's like about how you deliver roses to, Scarsdale, Arizona, like, that sort of thing. So I think that we should be looking as SEOs more at the bottom of the funnel. Additionally, I think we should also be looking more at shifting some of our ideas in terms of, which KPIs are most important to thinking a bit more about conversions. I know a lot of great SEOs have been looking at this anyway and beforehand, but I think that, we're having conversations with clients about the value of SEO and where they should invest. I think that it should be rooted in, a lot more of the business metrics. And I think that previously has been something that, great SEOs do and, clicks and impressions are important, but with the shift with AI overviews, they're giving us a lot less, refinement in terms of like where those impressions are and how much and they're weighting them the same, but they're not the same. And I think that, it's difficult to have conversations with clients when they're seeing lots of impressions, but a very low click-through rate. But if we're able to tie that through to conversions, then I think that's something that's really good value. So I think that essentially the advice is as ever, which is to like keep it business focused, and, not spend lots of time patting ourselves on the back. And I've done it myself before as well, but patting ourselves on the back for clicks that don't amount to business value. I think that we need to make sure that we know the customer funnel, we know the customers, and that we're able to add value at every stage, but particularly at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, great points. And yeah, I totally agree. I think what'd be really interesting, I haven't seen much data around this, and you kind of touched upon it earlier. It made me think, because when I'm looking at our data from large language models and their conversion rates, I think early data is telling me like Claude like converts really well compared to others. And I'm like, I wonder if that's a common trend or that's just us. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the industry and I think it depends on the features. So like some tools will lean more towards one thing or another. And I know that Claude users, my mom is a big tech person and she uses Claude all the time. She really, really likes Claude. To be honest, I don't like Claude that much. Like, it's not that I don't use it, but like, I just didn't really vibe with Claude particularly. Like I call ChatGPT chatters and like, yeah, we're fine. We're fine. I spent a lot of time with Gemini. I spent a lot of time with Perplexity. But yeah, I think that it's interesting to see that. And I think that understanding that you get a lot of users from that channel is really important because you can optimize specifically for that channel. And I think that that's worth thinking about as well. Because again, for instance, Perplexity always has links. Gemini does not always have links. That means that if you're trying to optimize for Gemini, you need to optimize for the kinds of queries that will trigger a link, right? And there are certain types of queries that will trigger a link and certain types of queries that won't. I shared at SMX and at SEO Week this year, I was looking at reasoning models, for instance, and I was talking about this. And essentially, one of the things that I pointed out was using Dolly Parton as an example. If I ask ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, why is Dolly Parton considered a great musician? And she is. We love Dolly. Like Dolly's amazing. Everybody loves Dolly. And they don't have to look that up. They're like, I have all, and you can see they're thinking, and the thinking literally says, I do not need to crawl the web to find this information. I have enough data on this to just answer you. And they'll say, Dolly Parton's amazing because this and that and that and that and that. And they know that information. Now, if I ask it specifically, like, who has Dolly Parton collaborated with in the last 5 years, it then has to look that up because it does not have that data to hand and it needs to confirm that data. So if there's a certain model that you're really good with, then that's worth looking at. And if there's certain data sets within that and certain topics within that are more likely to trigger a link and you're looking for links, then it's worth understanding those kinds of queries. Additionally, we recently shared some information from Rand Fishkin on market adoption rates. And the types of queries changes whether or not people are using ChatGPT or whether or not they're using Google. So one of the examples I looked at was like, if you look up, so SparkToro has a tool that will show you whether or not your market is looking at, and Rand has a great article on this and goes into all the details. But the TLDR is you can put in your keyword and you can see whether or not people are searching lots on certain platforms, and they include ChatGPT. So if you look up potatoes, there's no, like, ChatGPT does not show up as the top 7 channels. People look at Reddit, people look at YouTube, people look at Google to find out information about potatoes. If you look up programming, then ChatGPT is one of the top searches, the top, search channels, information channels for that. So you should have a look at and have a look at some of your core terms and see, like, is this something that we need to get involved with straight away? If you're in the potato business, then maybe you just need to dabble, like, maybe it's not like you don't need to jump in straight away. But if you were in the laptop business, for instance, then you probably should get involved because people are using that to find information about what you're doing. So I think that's important to think about as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it does vary by industry. Just to finish off last couple of things. So generally about AI, what are your thoughts overall? Because on the news that I do, obviously it is a bit doom and gloom at times because there are some concerning things about AI, but there's also exciting things. It helps me do my job, on a daily basis a lot quicker, more efficiently, help me find stuff quicker, like you say. But generally, not just search perspective, but what's your vibe about AI? Are you worried about certain things, or you think it's better for humanity?
I think AI needs to be used intelligently. It's artificial intelligence. We need to use actual intelligence. And I think that's important that people take that in their stride. I think that there are some people who are dismissive. But I think that the technology is too good. Like, people are like, oh, people won't use that. It's like, they will. Like, they only will. They will use it because it's very good. And I think that I remember when people were sharing that, I think it was like a Will Smith eating a cake or something video, and it was monstrous. And there was they tried to make a pop video, and it was monstrous. But literally during the Super Bowl, they had AI videos during the Super Bowl, and like, they weren't bad. Like, they looked, they were really interesting. And I think that it's the rate of increase and the rate of technology, not adoption, but improvement, will only get quicker with these tools. And I think that it's really important for us to understand it as best we can, and to use it as effectively and responsibly as we can, because I think that it's here. It's here. It's what I think. And also, I think we've used it for doing lots of things, like, writing poems and, best man speeches and that sort of thing. But we can use it to solve real problems. I know a couple of people, you've mentioned health, but who diagnosed a couple of used AI to help them diagnose a couple of really challenging niche health issues. And they were able to, go back and forth and put in their data that they had from, their health apps and their smartwatches and things like that. And they were able to, go back and forth and then go to their doctor with, like, I have this data, I have this information. And based on this, I think this. And the doctor's like, well, yeah, actually, turns out, actually. And I know a couple of people who've been able to do that, and they would not have been able to do that before. So we have the ability to solve some real challenges with this. And I think that, it's not just a party trick. This is really, really incredible tech. And if we use it for that purpose, then I think we'll go far.
Yeah, I think responsibility, like being responsible, is the main term. Yeah, I think obviously you're always concerned when there's such amazing technology that bad actors are going to get their hands on it and do some bad things, which they go into, and they already are starting. Obviously, scams are getting a lot more, intelligent and a lot more creative. And but like you say, if we use it in the right ways, in not substituting it for our own intelligence, we still need to use that and make sure our minds are still ticking over and not replacing every single thing we do is important. And then also, using it for things like scientific discoveries and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very important. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And then kind of just, finish off last one. What's kind of like the things coming down the track in terms of Wix and Gemini yourself, what you got coming up on your own personal kind of roadmap? But yeah.
Yeah, so this autumn I'm going to be speaking at a few different events. I'm speaking at Digital Olympus in September, and also I'll be at Brighton SEO as a moderator, and we'll have a booth where they have like sponsors who are Brighton SEO this month. And then in October, I'm going to be at Brighton SEO in the UK, and then I'll also be at SEMrush Spotlight. And then I'm also going to be doing, we do a webinar every month at Wix for the SEO Hub. And so we're doing that and in September, we're going to be talking about all of our AI search tools. And then we'll have webinars every month. I'm also working on a project, which I have not announced yet, but will be fairly major in 2026. So I'm trying to get my head around how to announce that. And we're planning to continue to add to and roll out the AI Search Lab. We're really proud of that. It includes some great research, some great articles. I also built an AI search. I say I should take a lot less credit for that than I ideated it. The person who actually built it was Kira Carter, who is our managing editor for that project. So we have the glossary for AI search, and that what I'm really proud of. It seems a little like basic. I to be like in 2025 to have a glossary, but what I find is that I try to look up this information about what is zero shot learning or like what is grounding or something, and it's all very geared towards developers or people who are building it with AI. And we essentially have an A to Z of AI search terms and jargon, et cetera, that is specifically dedicated to how marketers might use it and why it matters to marketers. And I think that's really valuable. I can't say I wasn't inspired by, the Moz SEO glossary, but I think that having something specifically around AI search is a great way that people can get started.
Obviously, I'll put a link to the AI Search Labs in the description so everyone else can check it out, and all your details so people can connect and follow you. But yeah, I won't keep you for any longer because I've kept you for long enough now. And but I really, really appreciate your time. It's been awesome chatting to you. Hopefully, get you back on soon to learn more about your findings when you're looking into things. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.